Hello, hello! My name is Callista, and welcome back to Roottreemania. In the last episode, we found the missing pages of the Picotee article. Now, there are a few things from the article that I want to look up. However, with the article came a couple of pictures, as I remember to set my timer going. Yes, indeed. Okay, now we have this one, which is from a Christmas party, and then we also have this. Now, I would assume this is the older picture. The quality isn't as good between the two. I would assume this is probably Zach handing the keys to the company over to Guy. For this one, I'm thinking we've been able to get this guy's picture. And assuming that woman is one of Guy's affair partners. Because this is the only one with them where the husband would have a picture. You don't have a picture. You don't have a picture. Therefore, I think this is Susan Ford and Thomas Hughes. We still need to figure out who your kid is, but I think that's what's going on there. If this is Zach being like, yep, there you go. Yeah, you're holding champagne. You're holding champagne. This is early on. Where is confidential? Yes, so President Zach Morden. Also, is this the one where... Yeah, Zach Morden retirement party. So let's see. Christine Farrow. That we already know who Joanna is. Is this Christine? It could be... It could be someone who's already working here, but... Given that we have... There's like nothing. Whereas there is something here. Yeah, I'm wondering if that's Christine. Yeah, it would... Early. It's early. Yeah. I'm thinking that might be you. Christine... Farrow. And you are your married name was Garland, right? Who did that come under? Yeah, Christine and Steve Garland. So we have a Stephen. Garland. What would your occupation be? Because there was mention of this in the periodicals. And it was Antonelli's. They wanted to open their own restaurant. We don't know if they ever did make the move to Boston. I'm gonna try secretary. Is there anything... Chef is an option. Theoretically, we must have made a mistake here. Because theoretically we have 4. And they unlock every 4th. This picture has to be early on. It has to be early on because it's Zach. I assume Zach would... Was Zach dead at this point? I mean, either way, he looks so young here. He looks so young. Yeah, he looks damn near identical to this. That has to be early on. So I don't think it can be you. I think this picture either goes with this one or this one. That's a thought. We know Susan Ford divorced her husband. Yeah, I feel pretty... Do we have... Is... Principal... She's the principal of the school, not a professor. Do we have... I think... I'm gonna go back to unknown. I think it's the fact we can't check up. I'm pretty sure this is Christine. This is Christine and Steve. Yeah, I got Quaker. You were an Edsel. I can't. We have actor advertising. Yeah, I think we have to go with pilot here because we can't have unemployed or criminal as options. So I think you have to be a pilot. That is a bugger. I want... Again, I feel like I know where we would have to look. I think we would have to find a paper with a connection to Boston. To see what became of these two, to see if they did go to Boston and they did open up a restaurant. Oh, you son of a bitch. You tricky, tricky son of a bitch. Okay, let's... You know, it's been a while. I'm gonna go through my whole notebook. I'm gonna go through my whole notebook and see what I haven't looked up. Yep. We've looked up all of these 5Ps. You know what? I don't think I ever looked up the music Okay, yeah, nothing new there. The song was called All Your Problems. Okay, yeah, nothing there. Okay, yeah, and you know, just to be safe. Okay. According to fan sites, Felix Fellows is not 5P's actual name. His birth name was David Fellows. Dirty Davy was 5P's previous stage name. He used to sell records and perform live shows in Portland under that name. There are some people selling his old mixtapes on auction sites. One is apparently called Dirty Devil and the other Dirt Poor. Okay, so maybe Portland. Oh. You find an article about the dedication ceremony for the local Portland landmark called the Fountain of Youths. Apparently, at the unveiling of the fountain, the mayor of Portland made a speech and there were performances by multiple local entertainers, as well as a ribbon cutting from the people most instrumental in bringing the fountain into fruition. The article calls out that all of the performers and speakers, with the exception of the mayor, were foster care alumni, and most of them grew up together as close friends. This includes poets, musicians, and dancers. Dirty Davy was listed as one of the musicians. They were friends. They are friends. You bitch. You bitch, Felix. Or David, whatever your name is. And after you wrote that really good rap about how you were going to use decorum and all this shit, and it's bullshit. You son of a bitch. Okay. Dirty Devil was 5P's first mixtape, released as Dirty Davy from the early 90s. There's discrepancies and debates about what year exactly it was released based on some of the pop culture references, with the range thought to be somewhere between 1992 and 1994. One of the songs, Yes I Can Jump, seems to be at the centre of the confusion. Some fan sites claim that there are multiple versions with different track lists and song lengths on them, though because there's very little evidence of the mixtape online as it is, it's even harder to verify that information. Let's just... Okay. Yes I Can Jump is a song that was on 5P's mixtape Dirty Devil. It seems to be the only song that didn't make it onto his studio album that people thought should have. In it, he references a popular movie from 1992 called White Men Can't Jump. The reference has caused some confusion amongst the fan base. Because of it, it is agreed upon that the mixtape had to come out in 1992 at the earliest, but others point out that Fellows references seeing the movie on his 17th birthday. That would have had to have been in 94. Some take this to mean that the album had to have been released in 1994 at the earliest. Others claim that he was likely just trying to make himself sound older, since in response to some of the more questionable lyrics, he has stated multiple times that he was just a dumb kid when it was released. Alright. What is this film? Okay, yeah. We can't find the film. And then Dirt Poor. Dirt Poor was a mixtape by Dirty Davy released in 1996. There's a lot of online discourse from people who like to point out that in one of the songs, Felix Fellows includes someone that would be revealed to be his own distant cousin, Raina, in a list of attractive women. Lyrics to one of the songs, Heat, mentions a few different prominent female actresses, models, and musicians from the 90s, and provides a crude pun or line about what Fellows felt about them. When re-released in 1999, much of the rhetoric was toned down to be less overtly profane, and the line referencing Raina was clumsily replaced by Dana, a reference to a character from the X-Files. Nice save, bud. Nice save. Yeah, that's too vague. Well, I mean, I don't think it matters, because I don't think she is your cousin. I think you're right there, but it would look a bit incestuous if you kept that up. Okay, yeah. That's 5Ps. Anonymom. Sicily. Okay. Yeah, these are the new ones. Excuse me. Okay, yeah. So this is a reference to Bess. Got it. Roottree, Brazil. Okay. Roottree Brazil, sometimes erroneously referred to as Roottree Brazil, is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottree Candy. It was developed as part of the Roottree Everywhere initiative near the beginning of 1979. Unlike some of the other Roottree Everywhere results, Roottree Brazil seems to be a success. You do some rough translating and find a significant amount of information about it. Brazil was the only region in which caviar-flavoured 5 pieces, released at the end of 1978, were a hit. The primary reason that the factory still exists to this day is solely to create that flavour, which comes as its own standalone 5-piece bag with Portuguese writing. A small town named Alvalagos, near the municipality of São Bernardo de Campo, became the location chosen by the Roottree Candy Company after a newly elected local politician named Edson Soares heard that they were planning a new factory and petitioned them in early 1979. The factory was controversial, as locals did not want it there. The Roottrees visited Brazil around Christmas and managed to break ground on the project. Since then, however, it has been operating relatively smoothly, except for 2 incidents. The first was Incendio do Bordeaux I'm so sorry for the pronunciations, I'm so sorry, in 1982, and the second was an unsuccessful strike in 1995 that involved all of the factory workers being replaced. The factory was originally built and run, according to paperwork at the time, by a small company called Nova Corporação de Doces Brazil, which literally translates to New Brazil Candy Corporation. This company no longer exists, not much information has ever existed about it, and the Roottrees now run Roottree Brazil entirely. Okay. So... okay. Roottree Everywhere was an expansion in the late 1970s. Actually, you know what? We'll go with... we'll do that. Okay. Highlight it if you please. So yeah, Roottree Brazil seems to have been a success. It's the only region in which caviar-flavoured 5 pieces was a hit. I don't think we necessarily need that. But the place names, absolutely. Edson Soares. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. They visited Brazil around Christmas. We do have that Christmas picture. Ooh. I don't know. This strike doesn't seem to have a name. Okay. Roottree Everywhere. Roottree Everywhere was an expansion in the late 1970s. It coincided with some other large changes at the company and had mixed success. As far as you can tell, the different companies related to it were all formed in very different and sometimes haphazard ways. There's minimal organised information about the history of the expansion itself online, but you can glean the following. Roottree Candy had been distributed globally to certain markets approved by Elias as early as the 1940s. This included places like Canada, Mexico, and select countries in Europe, mostly the UK. Roottree Everywhere involved Roottree's expansion to other major markets that were assessed to be ready for Roottree. This started with 4 that it had no share in: Australia, Brazil, China, and France. Now we know, I say we know, we believe that this is where, oh god, what's her face? Caroline. Eloise. That's a French name. Excuse me. There we go. And we know that Caroline, she went on one of these trips, and that's where she met Eloise, and, you know, oh, I fell in love, and Guy ended up with a black eye. Something like that. So I don't think we actually need to look into Roottree France, because Guy's target, shall we say, had no interest in him. But these others, Australia, Brazil, and China, each of these countries had an entirely new company formed, mostly by making deals with local distributors and manufacturers. So we have, well, we've already got that one, yeah. So China Roottree. And I will look it up, just in case. Ooh. Roottree France is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottree Candy. It was developed as part of the Roottree Everywhere initiative in summer 1979. Apparently, Roottree France was a non-starter. Negotiations broke down pretty late in the process, after the company had already been formed, and then the leadership of Roottree went through a very large change soon after. The CEO of Roottree France was meant to be Tristan Robert. Ooh, hello. Oh, hi there. Pokemon. Tristan Robert is a businessman who at one time was in negotiations to take over Roottree France. He is still alive, and you come across an interview unrelated to Roottree from a few months ago. It seems that other countries have not been immune to Roottreemania, as you recognise the word Roottree in one of the questions. It seems the interviewer snuck in a question about his experience with the company at the end of the 70s. The article is in French and takes some time to translate section by section. He mentions Guy by first name only, and the tale he tells is quite ugly. The translation is as follows. Guy, the president of Roottree, was one of the worst men I have ever met. He approached my wife about having an affair, which she refused. He then kept insisting that this was the best way to celebrate the end of our business contract. I don't think he expected her to say no, and I don't think he thought she would tell me what happened. I punched him in the face and refused to attend another meeting with the man. They lost a lot of money on this deal because not only was he a terrible person, but he was also a terrible businessman. When he died shortly after, it felt like the universe was working things out. I wasn't surprised to learn he had a secret child. He seemed to treat women like collectible pocket monsters. It seems mentioning Pokemon sidetracks the questions a bit, and the interview never returns to the subject of Roottree. Oh, that is hilarious. That is, I don't know if this is Eloise or not. I mean, Guy doesn't seem like the kind of person who would just be like, oh, I'll go after one person and not anyone else. It seems like Guy would be, it kind of seems like Guy was trying to spread his seed as much as he possibly could. So I'm not sure if Tristan's wife is Eloise, or if it's a different lady entirely, but that is... I'm sorry. Oh, what's the best way to celebrate the end of our business contract? Would it be like a nice dinner? No, we should fuck. Hop on my dick. That is the best way to celebrate the end of our business. Like, no, Guy, you dipshit. I love that. She's not gonna tell anyone that I told her to hop on my dick. She's not gonna tell anyone that. Why is her husband coming towards me? Oh, why is her husband punch me? Like, dude. If someone asked me about that, the first thing I'm going to do is, like, I'm going to go to my partner and be like, dude, that person you've gone into business with is fucking crazy. They asked me to engage in an affair. Like, I'd be offended. I would be offended. I do think I would be so offended that I would be saying, like, don't take the business deal. They're clearly a shitty person. Like, they've asked their new business partner's missus to engage in an affair. Like, that is some bullshit. That is some bullshit. Oof. And yeah, let's just to double check. Yep. Oh. Okay, there we go. I was like, is this not the same page? It is. Okay. So Roottree Oz. Roottree Oz is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottree Candy. It was developed as part of the Roottree Everywhere initiative in summer 1979. According to a history website for Roottree Oz, Charles... Wait a minute! Suze! His mistress, Susie something. I think I've got them. I'm thinking if this was right before he died, I've got this mixed up. Unknown. I think that's... I'm thinking you. Actually, wait a minute. Just in case. Thomas. Hughes. Susan Ford, and you are a principal. I'm thinking if this was right before he died, he had a mistress by Susie something, aka Susan. Aha! There we go. And there are lots of lock-ins. Lots of lock-ins. Booyah! Excellent. We have made progress and we can also put in your mugshot. Yes! Progress has been achieved! Finally, it's been so long! It's been so long. I'm just double checking that there aren't any other new pictures on this board. Doesn't look like it. Okay. Yes. Yes. Fabulous. Okay. Okay. Right, what was I doing? I got distracted by my idea. Okay. Okay, according to a history website for Roottree Australia, Charles Martin, who owned a company that manufactured licorice in Australia, was tapped to run the Roottree factory after he impressed the American leadership of the Roottree Candy Company at the time. Roottree Oz did have some success, but only in certain regions. The manufacturing leg of the company shuttered in 1992 after the death of Martin, and Roottree Australia now serves as an importer and distributor. Okay, Charles Martin. Charles Martin was a candy manufacturer in Australia, born in 1923. He had a popular brand of licorice called Martin's Licorice Bullets. Most of his history is unrelated to the Roottrees. However, in 1979, he helped to develop Roottree Oz. He used his own wealth to build a new factory, and they distributed the maple treats through the same methods he had already been using for his previous candy venture. A website about Australian commerce mentions that he had a very unusual business agreement with the main Roottree company in the US. Much like how the Clancy Trust distributed the profits from the Roottree Company evenly to the Roottree family, the profits of Roottree Oz would be split 50-50 between the American Roottree Company and Martin himself, for him to do with what he wishes. This made Martin very, very wealthy, but also led to many cost-cutting measures meant to increase profits as much as possible, especially towards the end of Martin's life in the early 1990s. Roottree Candy gained a poor reputation in Australia and sales suffered immensely. Charles's vast fortune was passed along to his daughter, Robin Martin, who sold both businesses at first opportunity. Okay, so there was mention of a Robin. There goes my timer. So I'm going to bring this episode to a close. However, again, I now have leads. I now have leads that I can follow. I can feel like steam picking up. I have the momentum. And that is deeply, deeply satisfying. But we will have to put a pause on that and come back to it in the next episode. So until then, please remember to like if you enjoyed, leave a comment below, and if you wanted to subscribe, it would be very much appreciated. A special thanks to my channel members, such as SM2K, Christopher K. Davis, CGG, and Kevin Bicknell. I've been Kallista. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.